Michael Breen works at the Inner West Council, and we would welcome Michael. He will be talking about data sets and bases, migration, automation. I would welcome you, Michael, and over to you.
Good afternoon. My name's Michael. I'll be your therapist for this session, and I'll try to bring some balance and simplification to your everyday with the help of our good friends at SAFE. As a little bit of background about me, I've been working with Inner West Council for around the last 2 years, and I've been an FME user for around 7 years all up. In the council itself, FME is used in numerous teams for anything from small jobs all the way through to large projects. And it's made our lives in the GIS team significantly less stressful through the use of it. I'm with you today to share a large example of how we've used FME to bring some zen and simplicity to the team, and share some tips and tricks with you along the way that may ease your data worries as well. Our treatment today will consist of getting down and dirty with some of the data challenges we've faced being a merged council. We'll then focus on achieving some zen in our data through use of some tools available to us all through FME. Following that, I'll share some experiences the team have encountered and how we've overcome them by simplifying and automating processes, which can bring data balance to yourself and the workplace. At the end, there'll hopefully be time for questions, so please just keep them handy. Now, as GIS professionals, I'm sure that you've all been asked by a client, boss, or potential SPA partner to apply your skills in the mapping arena to create a robust, interactive data visualization, which can be deployed to the web, mobile, or preferably a holographic platform to provide any number of questions, provide answers to any number of questions that the user may want to investigate. The picture painted for you might look something like this. While simultaneously that same client, boss, or potential SPA partner has delightfully informed you that the data you'll be working with is thoroughly cleansed, metadata aligned, and spatially accurate. So when you open the data to discover it looks something like this, you might think it's not going to be a day at the SPA at all. I should point out at this point, I'd probably be rethinking my choice of potential SPA partners. When explaining that what they have asked for is a long way from what they've given you, it tends to end up in the old, oh, you're the GIS team, aren't you? Everything can be done in one click. I sometimes have to remind people that I work with that actually my job description doesn't say anything about working magic. And no matter what the not so tech savvy generation tells us, we're not actually wizards. But having said that, with the right application of FME, our data stresses can be a thing of the past. Inner West Council is a relatively new council created by an amalgamation of Ashfield, Leichhardt and Marrickville councils as part of the state government amalgamated council program. The amalgamation has brought with us numerous challenges. One in particular that we in the GIS team needed to tackle was bringing 3 councils worth of disparate, unknown, and frankly questionable spatial data into a single harmonized set of data that we could then be served out through a web platform to the separate council functions and updated as the needs of the council evolved. When I heard that, I had to double check my job description for any magician duties again. Getting into it, we put together a data flow process to combine the layers from the 3 separate legacy councils into single layers in a staging database where we had other data coming in from the web. This would then be managed as our single Inner West Council data. I should point out that the management of spatial data is determined by each individual council, and given that we're combining 3 councils into one, there were some difficulties we found along the way, whether it was different projections formats, topologies, and even attribute structures, there wasn't much Zen being brought to the whole process. For the data to be available as a uniform data set, we decided to adopt a uniform data model that we would use going forward and bring all the legacy data to that point using FME. When we began developing the workbenches to combine and migrate the layers from the 3 legacy councils into the staging databases, these differences make configuring a solution very tricky. Our first iteration of trying to migrate and harmonize the layers on screen here managed formats and projections very well, but we quickly realized that the attributes were going to cause the biggest problem, the kind that could really ruin your day at the spa. If we kept using this workbench, we'd have to create one workbench for every iteration of attribute structures and attributes themselves to bring them into a single data model. So, like any good FME users, we turn to the community and the help pages to look for a solution. We were directed to a transformer that was previously unknown to us, but provided the solution we were looking for, along with a significant amount of Zen, the schema mapper. The schema mapper does exactly what it says on the box, manages the schema. However, its ability to connect and refer to external datasets unlocks the potential to balance attributes in a dynamic workflow coming from multiple different sources into a single cohesive schema. In our workflows, that meant taking 1,030 individual attribute types in the local environment plans alone and converting them into 110 unified attribute types in the final data model. I've grabbed a sample of the CSV file that we used, and you can see here that to add more data sets, or if more data sets were created, they could be included in the workflow simply by editing this CSV file, which FME can then reread at any time. So it avoids the issue of having to create a new workbench to handle any new data or schema that comes along. So FME and the schema mapper brings in to attribute management through spreadsheets and straightforward automation. With the data sets from the Legacy Council combined and some Zen achieved through the use of the schema mapper, the next phase in the process is a migration of selected tables into our final production database. This process was complicated slightly by other external data sets being fed into this database that didn't match our final data model and also needed to be migrated and converted simultaneously. When we tested the migration for the individual data sets, we found that we would need to handle the data sets differently according to their projection, attribute type, geometry, and purpose. This translated to around about 20 different workbenches to manage the data sets, or a single massive workbench of individual sections based on differences branching again and again and again. As you can imagine, this brought with it significant amount of data stress. Enter the workspace runner. To bring simplicity to the whole process and reduce the number of data stress attacks that were going on in the team, the workspace runner provides simplicity in a few ways. Data sets can be run iteratively, so there's no need to figure out how to manage all the data coming through at once. Filters and variables that would need to be set, such as data validation or attribute handling, can be specified through the use of a spreadsheet. And again, I've got a quick snapshot of ours there. If data needed to be added or removed from this process, it could be done easily just by updating the spreadsheet. And one of the important things that any GIS professional needs is if something fails, then a notification can be sent and investigations can be held. With the simplicity of the workspace runner and our process being contained in about 1.5 workbenches and a spreadsheet, a lot of Zen had been returned to the team. But to further simplify the process, we looked to automate this. Now, the ease of use provided by FME Server would have solved all of our automation issues, but without FME Server, we had to turn to batch scripting so that we could run our workbenches in Task Scheduler at a specific time. This meant we didn't have to think about it, and the whole process was automated, bringing a lot of Zen and simplicity to the lives of the team. Throughout this process, we uncovered several tips and tricks to save you time and stress by leveraging some simplicity that FME has to offer. I'd just like to share them with you quickly. When automating workbenches through a batch file, it's important to make note of the writer path in the navigator. Look in particular for full stop paths. When testing workbenches in FME Workbench, these outputs were created successfully. However, when running workbenches through a batch file process, nothing is output. The full stop is the cause of this. FME Workbench, when it's run, reads the full stop and says, all right, I'm just going to drop the data in the same location as the workbench. However, the batch file doesn't have that level of smart and can't figure out where to put the data, so nothing is output. Secondly, when extracting data using the feature reader transformer, the schema and data are output separately. In our case, this allows us to manipulate the schema as we needed, write it out, and then use it as a writer resource in the writer itself. By writing the schema out and using it as a resource, we can manipulate the attributes for each data set as needed and still join it back to the geometry to complete the final transformation. Lastly, a small script that nicknamed the Python kill command can reduce the number of FME processes running in the background. This can free up system resources and may also help you avoid any licensing issues that appear. Hopefully, this will help floating your data worries away and bring some Zen and simplicity to your workbenches in the future. Thank you very much.